a welcome sale, Air India disinvestment. www.thehindu.com A welcome sale, Air India disinvestment yesterday, 10:55 p.m. with the Union Cabinet's, in principle, approval for the sale of Air India and 5 of its subsidiaries, a long-standing demand on the reform checklist has been ticked. The rationale for the government to shovel in huge sums of money to keep the loss-making airline afloat was weakening by the year. Today, such life support, as Finance Minister Arun Jaitley recently noted, was being given when competing private airlines already cater to well over 85% of the air travel demand in the country. Government money that keeps Air India from going bankrupt would be much better used to fund important social and infrastructure programs that are starved of precious capital each year. Air India has been surviving on a 30,000 rupees crore bailout package put together by the United Progressive Alliance government in 2012 to help its turnaround, and the debt relief provided by public sector banks. The airline has a debt load of over 50,000 rupees crore on its books, and it is estimated that even a well-executed asset sale may not fully cover its present liabilities. So in the event of a sale, taxpayers may have to foot at least some part of the loss, either directly in case the government pays off the airline's creditors, or indirectly if the public sector banks write off their loans to the airline. However, it is more likely that the government may divest its three profit-making subsidiaries separately, with the proceeds going to Air India to help deal with its liabilities. Also read only the brave will take on Air India, Anand Mahindra. It is not yet clear whether the airline will be fully privatized or how its eventual sale will be executed. A ministerial panel under Mr. Jaitley is expected to begin working on the details soon. But having taken the politically courageous decision to privatize Air India, the government would do well to go for the sale of its entire stake, even if it is done in a gradual manner. Eventually, the aim of the sale should be to get the best price for the airline. One good way to achieve this would be to allow both domestic and foreign buyers to bid freely for stakes. For this, the government will have to retune its FDI policy to allow foreign investors to buy a stake in Air India. The Civil Aviation Ministry has made a case for the sale of non-core assets first to pay off existing creditors, so that the airline becomes more attractive to private buyers. But this assumes that private buyers would not otherwise see the value in Air India's assets. Indigo has already expressed interest in buying a stake in Air India, with other domestic airlines reported to be serious about making a bid too. Finding a way to deal with Air India's debt load will be the main challenge for Mr. Jaitley's panel. How this process goes will be vital not just for Air India. If it goes relatively smoothly, that would make the task of moving forward on the disinvestment of other public sector units that much easier. Comments. Visit website. The Plains Truth, local elections in Nepal. www.thehindu.com The Plains Truth, local elections in Nepal yesterday, 10:50 p.m. 2 months after the first phase of local elections, Nepal has completed the second, and more tricky, phase. This week's polling in provinces in the Terai Plains and in the far eastern and far western parts completed the first elections to local bodies in 2 decades. In the first phase, the Communist Party of Nepal, Unified Marxist-Leninist, was in the lead, winning the highest number of councils and wards, with the Nepali Congress coming a distant second. The UAML had steadfastly opposed any change to the constitution finalized in 2015, specifically amendments that would allow a redrawing of the provinces, as demanded by the plains dwellers, the Madhesis. This approach helped it strengthen its nationalist image in the hills. The second phase has been a more difficult proposition for the UAML. Voter turnout in this phase was close to 70.5%, while it was 74% in the first phase. The high turnout, despite incidents of violence in areas that went to the polls on Wednesday, indicates a grassroots yearning for inclusion and the deepening of democratic institutions. Among the Madhesi parties, the newly formed Rashtriya Janata Party Nepal boycotted the polls as its demand for amendments to be made to the constitution before the polls was not met, but sensing the public mood for participation, it fielded independent candidates in order to consolidate support. The state restructuring demand had been articulated during the Jan Andolans, popular struggles, of 2006. The demand for federalization was repeated in the agitations in the Tere in 2015, which had led to an economic blockade of the valley by the plains dwellers. But despite these agitations, the issue remains unresolved as strident opposition by the UAML has prevented any consensus over amendments that would realign the provinces so that the Madhesis are in a majority in more provinces than those delineated in 2015. For the Madhesis, federalization is a desperate demand for recognition and inclusion, as the Hill elite dominates the various layers of the government, the bureaucracy and the security forces. The threat of an electoral boycott was meant to be a pressure tactic to get the central government led by the Nepali Congress and the Communist Party of Nepal, Maoist Centre, to live up to the promises of pushing for the requisite amendments in parliament. But as the local elections were widely welcomed by the electorate, including the plains dwellers, this was a self-defeating step. This is why two other Madhesi forces, the Federal Socialist Forum and the Madhesi Janadhikar Forum Loktantrik, decided to participate in the elections. However, the three big parties, the UAML, the Congress and the Maoists, should not misread the high participation level as marking a change in outlook in the plains on state restructuring. Madhesi faith in democracy must be secured with the promised amendments. Comments. Visit website.